Hello, Facebook fans and YouTube fans of DX Engineering. It is Thursday afternoon here in the Eastern time zone of the USA. It is 1831 Zulu on July 20, 2023, and this is the Manufacturers Showcase. On the Manufacturers Showcase, you get a show from one of the over 160 different manufacturers that DX Engineering represents, and we're proud today to have Scott, W4PA. He runs all things Vibraplex, all things INRAD, and on and on and on. Hello, Scott.
Greetings, Tim. How you doing?
Good, good.
Always a pleasure to see you. DX Engineering, you guys are doing a great job. Pleased that you're selling my stuff well. Everything's going great. Yeah, I mean, as you said, that with all the different stuff I'm doing. I'm the owner of Vibraplex. We also own Venture, Par End-Fedz, INRAD, and Vintage Manuals. And we're the U.S. distributor for Spider Beam, Matte Tuner, Easy Rotor Control, GHD, High Mount, and SPE Expert Amplifiers, much of which is also sold through DX Engineering as well.
Boy, that is a mouthful. That's a lot of stuff, Scott. Let's talk for a second just about your new acquisition there with SPE amplifiers. What's going on there?
SPE is an Italian brand of solid-state linear amplifier. They've been around since 2011. The previous owner of it, Bob Hardy, W5UQ, expressed a desire to finally retire at age 83 last year, and we took over the U.S. and Canada distribution of their products in May of 2022. We're selling their amplifiers. We're also doing, we have a contractor that's doing warranty and non-warranty repair for their products as well. It's going pretty well.
No, that's a great acquisition for you, Scott. And how about Vibraplex? You talk, I mean, the history of Vibraplex and keys, and you put that together with Venture. That's really cool.
The Venture thing just, it was just one of those things. Bob Loker, who was one of the co-founders of Venture, is somebody I've known since I was a teenager, I think. And Bob, the same thing, had expressed desire to retire. I think from the time I started talking to him and his partner about us taking over Venture to when it finally happened was probably about 3 years. I mean, it was a very long, slow process of them sort of wrapping things up, deciding what they wanted to do. So yeah, so it's, I mean, we're sort of your CW total stop. You have Vibraplex, Venture. Yeah, love it.
That's really great. So Scott, let's talk about new stuff. What's the new stuff that you got?
Okay, so the newest thing is actually part of the Par End-Fedz line. We acquired Par End-Fedz from L&R Precision back in 2019, and they have been manufacturing end-fed half-wave antennas for a number of years now. And basically what they were manufacturing was 100-watt capable single-band end-fed half-wave antennas. And a couple of things started happening right away when I took this over. I started getting emails asking, how come you guys don't have more multi-band antennas? How come you guys don't have antennas that are capable of use with high power? How come you don't have any antennas that are, or a lot of antennas that are strictly for QRP power? So in the last couple of years, we came out with a bunch of high power versions, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the latest thing we came out with was a line of single band QRP end-fed half-wave antennas. Now, we've had a few already. We have one that's called the Mark II, which is a 25-watt, 10, 20, and 40-meter antenna that can be used either portable or in a portable configuration. We have an antenna called the Trail Friendly. I've actually got the Trail Friendly right here with me. This little antenna weighs 4 ounces. You can see it's in a very tiny package. I'm holding it in my hand. You've got a 49-to-1 transformer here, BNC connector, 22 gauge wire, matching coil here in the middle, and you've got a little winder even where the antenna winds on a winder. Now, this antenna sells for $90. It's for 10, 20, and 40 meters. Okay, but there's not everybody wants to operate 10, 20, and 40, and at $90, it's a little high. So what we did in the last few months is I came out with a line of single band QRP end-fed half-wave antennas. Essentially what we did is used the existing matchbox that we were using for the 100-watt version and made it in a version that will handle 25 watts. And instead of using 18 gauge wire for the version that could be permanently mounted, we changed the wire to a smaller gauge wire, 22 gauge. So because the wire costs less and because the components of the box cost less, the retail price of the QRP version of these single band antennas ended up being 25% less than the 100-watt single band version. Now I got a couple of these. We got a couple of these sitting here. This is the 40-meter version of this antenna. And again, this is the same thing. The main thing about these is that they're very little. They weigh nothing. You can stick it almost in your pocket and take it with you. Give me just a sec. I got this wrapped in bubble wrap. Okay, so this is the 40-meter single band version. We have here a transformer matchbox. You can see it's about 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. It weighs about 2 ounces. We've got 66 feet of number 22 insulated wire, which weighs a couple more ounces. And that's it. You just string this thing up. You hook the antenna on here, run the thing out. We put a little packing kit inside this as well. And the things that are in the packing kit are the kinds of things you need. Of course, the first one that's important, end insulator. You can see you can either tie the wire through the center of this. It's got a hole on each end, so you can tie it through the hole. You know, to adjust this thing for SWR, once you get the thing in the air, of course, it's going to depend upon how high it is, where you got it close to other things, buildings or whatever. So to adjust the SWR on this thing is super easy. You could even run the wire through the hole and through the hole and just wrap it around itself, because not everybody knows this. When you take a wire and you wrap it back around itself, you have to think of the insulation that is invisible. What people get in their heads sometimes, I've had this happen with the end-fed antennas before, is they think this antenna has to be a certain length. Let's just pick 66 feet even. But let's say it's not quite resonant and it ends up being 65 feet, 7 inches that you need. What you don't need to do is you don't need to cut the wire. You can just take the wire, run it through something like this, tie it back around itself. That just looks like, electrically looks like a little bit fatter wire. Think of the insulation as invisible. So that's what this is for. There's a couple more things we have here. Let's say the antenna ends up too short, which could happen. It's not supposed to be short because we actually cut the thing long intentionally. So when you put the thing up, if you need to shorten it, it's much easier to shorten it than lengthen it. But if you need to lengthen it, we actually give you, if I can hold this here, a pigtail. You've got a solder lug on one end of this, and then you've got a piece of 22 gauge wire. So you could actually take this thing and you don't even have to put it on the end. You could stick it on the feed point side. You could stick it right there. That still counts as length. I know, obviously, that the feed point then is a little bit in from the end of the wire, so it's not completely end-fed, but that does work for lengthening out the total length of the antenna, sticking that on there. And then the third thing that comes in the packing kit with these single band antennas is one of the things that you want to do when you're taking the stuff out with you is you want to keep everything light as possible and maybe not carry a piece of RG8X or RG213 coax with you, which defeats the whole purpose of trying to backpack. So a lot of these guys now that are QRPing are using BNC connectors and RG174 light gauge coax. And we include in the box the PL259 to BNC connector that you need. So if you're using BNC feed lines, you just stick that right on there and you're ready to use. We include that in the box. You don't have to buy it as an accessory. So we've been selling a good number of these. I know DX Engineering is carrying them as well. And that's the latest thing from the end-feds that we're doing.
Boy, that is a super antenna and a great idea. These single band end-fed half waves, and I love the small wire and the adjustments. I mean, whether you need it to be shorter or longer, you've got that covered.
Yeah.
What else do you have for us, Scott?
Okay, so that was the newest thing that we have is these single band QRP antennas. Okay, so not everybody's interested in QRP and not everybody's interested in portable operation as well. And the most popular thing that we're selling these days for the end-fed half-wave antennas are antennas that are usable at both high power and for multiple bands. Most people are not realistically going to put up multiple single band wire antennas. That's just not, we as hams don't do it that way. I mean, you could see having a single antenna for a specific band, for 80, for a dipole, etc. But most people getting on the air have got a rig, they've got an antenna tuner, power supplies, the basic accessories you need to get on the air, and an antenna. So what we've been selling the most of these days are these higher power antennas. And in particular, there are 3 versions that we've been selling both direct and through DX Engineering that are rated to 1,000 watts power. And they're usable in a variety of bands. We have one version that's 40, 20, 15, and 10. We have one version that is, Tim, excuse me 1 minute. I'm going to grab my phone charger because my phone's about to die. Hang on a second.
And while we wait for Scott to come back and tell us some more great information, let's see, we've got lots of folks in the chat room today from all over the world. And here comes Scott with his charger.
Yeah, sorry about that. I just got the best. I didn't realize it was that low. So what I need to do here is find the power outlet I can plug this into real fast. And we'll be back on the air.
And thanks to all of you for watching today, and also your comments in the chat room. If you have a question for Scott, put it in the chat, and we will do our best to get to it.
Okay, looks like we're good now. Okay, so let me set this back where it was. Okay, how are we looking there? Your picture look good?
Yeah, we're okay. Go ahead, Scott.
Okay, sorry about that. I didn't bother checking how much charge I had left before I turned this on. Okay, so what I was explaining about the larger multi-band end-fed half-wave antennas. Okay, 3 versions. One that's 40, 20, 15, and 10. We have one that's 40, 20, 15, and 10, and 75 or 80, which I'll explain. And then we have another version that's 80, 40, 30, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10 meters. Different lengths, and they do different things. Okay, the first one I'm going to talk about is the shortest one of the 3, which is an antenna that covers 40, 20, 15, and 10. What all of these antennas have in common is we're using a 49-to-1 transformer box at the feed point. This is the transformer box here. Inside this box, we've got 2 FT240-43 toroids. We've got a toroidal transformer that's wound on those cores with number 14 enameled wire connected to input SO239. Ground lug connector here if you want to attach a ground counterpoise to the antenna. And this side output connector for the antenna itself. The 40, 20, 15, and 10 version is called the EF4010KW. It's got a 66-foot long piece of wire as a radiator wire that comes off of this. It is strain relief here on the top, and I'll show you what this looks like in a minute completed. On the top, this is an Amphenol commercial grade vent. What you need for a box like this is part of the transformer process. You have heat that is part of the process. You want to be able to vent that. That's what the transformer vent is for. And there are 2 tiny weep holes that are here on the bottom of this that allow both airflow, and if condensation forms inside the box, it has somewhere to go. So this antenna, when you've got it hooked to the box, looks like this. This is what the transformer feed point looks like. You can see what we've got here is stainless steel hardware. We've got a thimble, we've got a wire lug, and then we've got the other side of this thing tied right here onto this antenna output connector. That version of the antenna, the EF4010KW, is 66 feet long, covers 4 bands. Okay, so now I'm going to jump to the longest version. I'll explain why I'll do the longest version instead of the sorry about that, phone rang. Okay, so the long version is 135 feet long. Again, uses the same toroidal transformer box, and it covers 80, 40, 30, 20, 17, 15, 12, and 10 meters with a single piece of wire 135 feet long. Again, same with the transformer box, hooks to the top of the box, output connector, just like the other antennas use. Now, here's where what started to happen once we came out with this long version of the antenna was, that version of the antenna, because of the properties of 80 and 75 meters, you're only going to get about 100 kilohertz below 2-to-1 SWR native to the antenna. So the problem is that to get this antenna resonant on all of those bands, it's got to be resonant in the CW digital part of the band on the low end of 80. If you want to operate SSB, that's problematic. You can't merely shorten the antenna because then you've shortened it on every band. So there was no way to make this work. And we got a number of phone calls about how can I make this happen? One way you can make it happen is to insert capacitance into the center of the antenna. Not everybody wants to do that. Too much work. So I came up with, in conjunction with a friend of mine, a shortened version of this antenna that used a loading coil at the end on the 4310 version, so you could then operate on the 75 meter band and set the antenna to anywhere you wanted. And that's this version right here. Let me hold this up and I'll show you what this looks like. There's a loading coil right here. This antenna is identical to the 40, 15, 20, and 10 meter version, only at the 66-foot point, instead of having an insulator at the end of the antenna, you've got a loading coil. And the loading coil looks like this. And then you've got a stub off of that loading coil that's 7 feet, 10 inches long. The combination of the coil and the 7-foot, 10-inch stub at the end allows that 4-band antenna to be a 5-band antenna and resonate on the 80 and 75 meter band. And now the question is, where does it resonate? And here's the best part: you can put it anywhere you want. Because what we've done with this antenna is made it resonant at the low end of the 80 meter band as is. All you have to do with this antenna is take the 7-foot, 10-inch stub and shorten it to put the resonance of the antenna anywhere you want between 3.5 and 4 megahertz. And again, same thing with wrapping the wire back around itself. You don't have to cut it, just pull it through the insulator, wrap it back around itself. It's about 11 kilohertz per inch, give or take, is what you'll adjust it for to put it anywhere. You can put it at 3,900, 3,650, anywhere you want it to be. So this antenna has been a hit as a result, because we've got people that operate digital modes on the higher bands and want to be able to talk to their buddies on 75 meter phone at night. That works great for both of that. So I know DX Engineering has been selling a lot of these antennas. One of the things you can do is, if you look at the dxengineering.com website and look at Par End-Fedz antennas, one of the great things I like about DX Engineering is they allow verified purchasers to write reviews of antennas on the website. We have nothing but good reviews for the 40 through 10. We call this model the EF 8010 Junior KW because of the junior length, and the all-band KW antenna.
Boy, that is a tremendous antenna, Scott, and thank you so much for showing that to us today. We're out of time for this run, but we've got to have you back on because you've got more stuff to talk about. And,
more stuff to talk about. and I'll talk until you make me stop.
That's the great thing. Scott, thanks so much for coming on today. We're going to have you on again soon. The chat room is buzzing about the End-Fedz here. And so you can find out more information about the Par End-Fed half waves by Scott, W4PA, on the dxengineering.com website. And thank you for being on today, Scott.
Tim, thanks a lot for having me. Be glad to come back again.
All righty. Until next time, tune in for the weekend special tomorrow, 4 o'clock Eastern, here on the DX Engineering channel. Until next time, 73 from DX Engineering.